You know, when you practice singing, you sound rubbish. Take no offense. I'm talking to myself. Let me tell you why. I made some notes. Just my advices for you. When you practice, usually you isolate something. Maybe I'm going to hum for a while. And when I do that, I think, what's that movement in there? Sounds rubbish. Maybe I open to an R. I might do other stuff as well, but I'm listening there and thinking, what's that? But of course, if I'm doing this, you don't get to hear all that because it's moving the whole time. And maybe there's words in there and so on and so forth. So you don't hear that thing. What you're doing when you're practicing, it seems to me, sometimes depending on what you're doing, is you're stripping back so you can look at one thing. And when all the distractions are gone and you strip back and you're listening to the one thing, it's rather exposed. Okay. That's the way it is. So don't be put off by that. Understand that that's the case. And you just have to get over yourself a bit. Say, okay, it's going to be like that. For instance, if I'm doing some of these, they call them sliders or can't remember what, where you just slide up. So I might go, ah, right the way through. Say I would do this, ah. Oh dear. Well, you wouldn't really notice that if you're singing because you're unlikely quite to do that, or you might jump over it, or so on and so forth. When it comes to the practice though, don't jump over it. Stop and look at it, and don't get depressed and downheart. If it's a yodel there, you've got to stop and look at that yodel. Don't avoid it. Run round it, I would suggest. So we'll stop and look. Ah, ah, what is it I need to do there? I need to, and you might isolate that thing. I caught myself doing something. How long have I been practicing for? Don't answer. And I caught myself recently, can you believe it? Avoiding subconsciously kind of an exercise because I found it difficult. This one, ka 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 ka, where you keep the jaw still, back of the tongue comes down, and I'd get ka ka ka, get a bit caught up with it. Sort of what I've been practicing it because I caught myself avoiding it, and I thought that's not the idea. To avoid it, we're practicing. Go there and do it. So that's what I started doing. Guess what? It's getting better. Didn't like it. Found it uncomfortable, not physically uncomfortable, but I just didn't like sounding like that. Ridiculous, no? So I reminded myself, when you practice, you sound rubbish. It'll always sound worse than the singing, but hopefully it will get better. But I think it will always sound worse than the singing because it's just raw, basic, exposed stuff. So I suggest you bear that in mind. Yodel, oh dear. That's what I meant in that thing. If you yodel, oh dear. Had a student just now. He almost apologised when he yodeled. We went through it. It was new to him and his voice not long broken. I said, what are you apologising for? You've got to change that attitude because it was like avoiding it. It's not going to go back there again because it's embarrassing. No good. Go back there. It will get better. I mentioned this before and I've stopped it. Isn't the mind a funny, sneaky little thing? I found myself, I put vibrato on. Now, of course, if I've got this slight and I'm trying to keep it as steady as possible. If I do this, I'm not going to hear it. So I had to have a word with myself. I took myself to one side. I said, listen, bruv, what are you doing? What are you putting vibrato on for? If you're practicing vibrato, and some people need to and do, fair enough. But But I'm not practicing vibrato. I'm wanting to see the truth, every detail. And the vibrato just pretties it up so you can't quite hear it. So it took me a while to stop myself using vibrato in any of the exercises I'm doing, because it's not about that. I want to practice vibrato, yeah, put it on. Or if I want to put it on later, put it on. But when I'm doing the thing to try and sort things out, get rid of it. Why are you trying to make it sound pretty? Ah, pretty. Now here's the thing, watch out for this. Because you're going to sound rubbish, you might want to take yourself away somewhere. If you're in a flat, as I am, and you haven't toughened up yet, you don't want to disturb your neighbours, of course. But what can happen is, you're going to sound rubbish. You don't like sounding rubbish, of course. So you're aware that people are going to be able to hearing you. So one of two things. Either you'll try to pretty it up and miss the point of the exercise because you're prettying it up as a kind of a performance, whereas really you want to not pretty it up and hear what's going on. Or you might start to get a bit inhibited, particularly when you go out that yodely bit. You might avoid doing that completely because you don't want to yodeling in front of. Or you might back off a bit because you don't want to yodel loudly, in which case if you back off you're more likely to yodel. So you're in a downward spiral. So watch out for that. If that's the case, try to find yourself somewhere private. I know it's not easy these days because you want to live in flats and what have you, but be aware of that, because that's not going to help you. Either you're going to have to tough up, go and speak to your neighbours and say, listen, you know what, I'm going to be doing a bit of practice this time most days, or blah blah blah. I'm trying some really tricks. It sounds really awful. I know it really sounds terrible. I hope you don't mind. Won't be for very long. You don't have to do these kind of things for too long, you know. And maybe that will mean that when you go there you feel right. I can go for it because I've sorted it. Here's one other thing before I finish. I have some very good singers at the Brit School, Elam, the University of Cambridge. And I've noticed with very good singers, they're looking maybe for a mix, blend, you know, stuff you've got to go for it, and it's going to be a bit rubbish. It's going to sound clumsy and ugly. And because they're used to sounding very good, and they don't like not sounding good or sounding rubbish. So it's like, so they avoid it. So I have to say to them, listen, if you want this, and you say you do, and I can see it would be useful, you're going to have to get used to sounding rubbish, even though you're used to sounding very good. So once again, take yourself, first of all, sort it out with yourself, because you need to get rid of the emotional thing, because that doesn't help either. When you're approaching these exercises and you're feeling within yourself, even if nobody can hear you, you're kind of like, oh I don't want to, that's no good. So get used to sounding rubbish for yourself so you can completely get rid of just saying, okay, that's the truth. That's where it is. That's what it is. Now let me see if I can work on it. And then, understandably, if you're a good singer, you don't want people to hear you sounding rubbish. I can understand that. So then you've got to try and find a way. Either you're going to have to tough yourself up. If you can't find a way out, because what are you going to do? Not do it? Or just see if you can get a rehearsal studio somewhere or something for these specific exercises which you're struggling with. Take yourself somewhere away from, so you can really go for it. You can sit there with yourself and your voice and say, right, let me see if I can get this sorted. I think that's all I have to say on this video. Mercifully short, you'll be thinking. One more thing I'm going to say though. This microphone, I haven't got my headphones on, so I better not be too noisy because it might distort. I can't hear what's going on. But it's an electret condenser. Electret condenser. What it is a Behringer SB 78A. I'm going to be reviewing it shortly. Mostly £28. I've just reviewed the other Behringer that was £12, a dynamic. Yes, there you go. People are trying things out. That's what you have to do. Anyway, I just mentioned that because I know a lot of my YouTube people, they're into the microphones. Going to review it and use it. Anyway, hope there may have been some use to you, and remember, when you practice singing, you sound rubbish. Me. Huh? Okay.